Tonight we have a special guest, Jordan Sherer KN4CRD, and I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hi folks, I'm Jordan Sherer, KN4CRD, and once the presentation is started here, I will get started, but there is a handout. Did everyone get a handout? I had it at the desk here. There's some more if you'd like one. It's a little bit about JS8, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So, JS8 call by me, KN4CRD. I am Jordan Sherer. I was licensed back in April 2017, so rather new ham, software developer by trade, and really just dove in with 2 feet, right into digital radio right out of the gate. So I have 3 babies. One is Wally, cute golden doodle. He was born in 2013. The other is Charlotte, August of last year, 2018. And JS8, which was August of last year, 2018. Check out those dates. Exactly the same. So I work for a great company called Zapier. I had some time off having Charlotte, and so I was feeding the baby, programming with one hand, and that was where JS8 came from. So how many people have heard of JS8? JS8 call? Oh wow. All right, fantastic. That's great. So I don't have to ask the other questions, which is like FT8, JT65, Hacktor, we'll get into that. First off, I want to start with some goals. If you can't see that, it says goals that I'm pointing to. There's one goal for this meeting, and that is for everyone to leave at least with one new idea. And if you leave and don't have a new idea, come see me, I'll give you a new idea. So that's our goal today. So, a little bit of an agenda. I'm going to talk about some digital mode stuff. JS8 call, what it is, why you use it, how it works, what equipment you need. I've got some set up here at the table. And then hopefully we leave enough time for a live demo, which can be questionable depending on how it shakes out. So we'll see how it goes. But to get started, this is a great slide. If you hackaday.com. They did a little series on ham radio, and this is like literally my shack. I've got the radio, the computer, the mic is actually sitting on a shelf, it's not plugged in, nowhere near it. I do, however, have a Magali key on the desk, so that is missing here. But let's get started with digital modes. Does anybody think that CW is a digital mode? Yes. Yeah. Okay. And some other ones here, RIDI, packet, PSK. So I want to see, got this here. What is this?
A phone.
RIDI. Okay. And then this, you might have heard it.
My modem handshaking.
Packet. AX25. And then how about this one, which is a little weird.
That's FT8. So it's an FT or JT mode.
No one said it.
How's Olivia?
Not Olivia. Close. All of those are kind of similar. That is Domino, and that's actually here. FSQ is based on Domino. I couldn't find an FSQ one. So the digital modes have progressed a lot over the years, starting back at 1890 with CW Wars, into RIDI, some packet stuff in the 70s, PSK in the early 90s. That's when you started interfacing computers and sound cards. JT65, if you're bouncing signals off the moon. FSQ, which is a big thing where some of the JS8 stuff came from. FT8, which was released back in June of 2017. And then JS8, which was August of 2017. Again, look at the dates, pretty close. I jumped in, I was working with JT65 at the time, and was playing around, heard of FT8, jumped in, and Joe Taylor, K1J2, created FT8 with Steve Frank, and released well, we have some extra bits. What do we do with them? What should we do? And I had this great idea. I posted it to the WSJTX developer board. You should make it so you can send more stuff. And they didn't like that, apparently. So I started FT8 call at that time, which was a little bit of FT8 combined with using a little bit of change in the modulation, and the encoding of it, so you could send more data. You just say, hey, I got more to send. Hey, I've got more to send. Hey, I've got more to send, until you don't. And that is JS8. So, JS8 is the mode. JS8 call is the software. This kind of started, is a JS8 is Jordan Sherer, 8 FSK, call is actually a layer on top of FT8 on JS8 is a directed calling protocol. So directed calling allows you to send a message directly to a station, into that station, and it'll print on their screen. You can center your audio into anywhere in the passband and decode all of the signals at once. And when your call sign is mentioned, it'll print on your screen. You don't have to go and find, if you've used PSK, the actual RF stream that's coming in to find your message. So, and hopefully I can demo that in a bit. So, JS8 call is an experiment to take FT8 and the robust weak signal properties of FT8 and layer on this messaging protocol and network on top of it. And network is an important part, which I'll get to. All of it is for this weak signal communication. FT8 is great if you want a lot of contacts fast, but it's really difficult to send anything more than a signal exchange and a grid. There is a free text box, but you're limited to 13 characters, and you have to go back and forth, and it's very difficult. So JS8 allows you to actually communicate. You can use the same properties of FT8, but actually communicate with freeform text messaging. So this is the software. It might look a little bit familiar if you've used any of ham radio software before. You've got a waterfall at the bottom, which is the audio passband. On your left is all the band activity, things that are happening in this passband. On the right-hand side, you've got your call signs that you've heard, their signal strength, which offset they were on, if they announced their grid, what grid it is, how far to that grid, and how long ago you've seen it. And in the center is where your messages are received and transmitted. The top box is what you've received, the different color is what you've transmitted. So it's pretty easy to use, and we'll get into that with the demo if I can keep going quick enough. It allows you to connect with anyone. Here I actually have done a heartbeat, which is announcing myself to the world, saying, hey, my station is alive. I am in the grid Echo Mike 73, and I have spot enabled, which is allowing any station that I've heard to be spotted to APRS IS and PSKreporter.com. So, why would you use JS8? It's not just chat, and it's created a network of stations. And this is the network of stations right now. We've got it all over the globe, across 5 continents. Some of these continents aren't online at the moment with this screenshot, but this is PSKreporter.com, and you can see the connections that are being made using weak signal properties. So I personally use this for QRP. Really able to go out there with 5 watts, 10 watts, and that's what this is set up. This is a KX2. It's got 10 watts out, and be able to make contacts with a compromised antenna inside. I made my first 160 meter contact using JS8 with a 7-foot vertical in my shack. It was really cool. So it's got a lot of really neat properties, and hopefully I can show some of those. So how does it work? Most of you have heard of it. Most of you have heard of FT8. FT8 transmits in 15-second intervals. So it says, hey, this is me in my grid, wait for 15 seconds. Hey, this is me in my grid, wait for 15 seconds. And then someone calls you and you exchange, and it takes a couple minutes. So what JSA does is it takes that and compresses a bunch of text into the frame and transmits it back to back. And then the software stitches it all together. So here's an example. You might have recognized the actual text, but it's splitting it up into 10 frames. So it's going to take 150 seconds to transmit. And it's going to do that back to back to back to back to back. It might be a little slow, 10 frames to transmit a paragraph of text, but we're transmitting at about 14 words per minute. That's down there at the bottom. So as you're typing in your message, you can see how fast it's going to transmit. And because of the way it compresses text, it doesn't transmit at a constant 14 words per minute. It can vary based on what you actually typed in. I have sent frames at 24 words per minute, and it consists of a few words that are really easily compressed inside of JSA. So on top of that, you have these really cool directed commands. So when I say it's a network of stations, literally a bunch of stations on the air, and people will leave them on the air. And they will leave them in auto mode. And if you see here at the top, there's a button that says auto, which means automatically reply to someone who's calling me. And basically respond to some of these directed commands. Some of those commands are like, what's my signal report? What's my grid? Can you relay this message to King Hussein? And there's a bunch of stuff inside of the application that you can actually see this. So some of these might be hard to see, but in the middle are some of those commands. What's my signal report? What's your station message? What's your grid? Who are you hearing? What other call signs have you heard? Can you store this message? Can you relay this message? Have you heard this call sign on the air? Those are things that stations that are on the air will automatically respond to when you send it to them. So it allows you to use the network to find a station or find a path to that station through a relay to be able to communicate. The thing is that JSA call is a tool for communication. And communication is the key, is being able to actually send message to someone. And I think it does it pretty well. So how do you get started? It's minimal equipment. Most of you will have this in your shack. It's a transceiver, an antenna, computer, running Windows, Linux, or a Raspberry Pi or Mac, and an audio interface. A little cheap little sound card that plugs into your USB port. That's it. You have to be able to connect that sound card to your transceiver. Most people will just do that through a box circuit, or if they have cat control, they can wire that up as well. That's it. Most of you will have that in your shack today, and if you don't, it's very, very cheap to actually get started. A lot of people who have never used digital mode before will get set up with a Raspberry Pi for like 40 bucks. They'll put a USB sound card plugged into it and connect to it over their phone using like a screen sharing program. So they can control JSA call from their phone to their Raspberry Pi that's connected to their transceiver. So this was my winter field day setup. It's got a KX2, I got this tiny little laptop, you can see the USB dongle coming out of the, for the sound card, and I had a 40-foot vertical. And I was running QRP, battery powered, 5 watts to that 40-foot vertical on 40 meters, and I did 16 contacts in 1 hour using JSA. 5 watts, I was pretty impressed with that. So it was a pretty good run. After that, I broke down and went home and played some more on the big antenna. So that was a lot of fun though. And it wasn't very cold for winter field day. But I like that you're able to actually get in to JSA for not very much money using equipment that you have. And you could go out to the field if you'd like, even on field day, and make contacts. And make contacts using really low power. And that's my favorite part. So on the sheets, there's a link to it. It's jsacall.com, groups.io/g/jsacall.com, and that'll get you to the reflector. We're about to our 1.0 release. That'll be released hopefully around March 11th out of beta, so be able to get on there and have some fun. Right now there's about 10,000 people in the reflector, so it can get pretty busy with messages, but everyone's really friendly, and JSA call has turned out to be a pretty cool experiment. Last time I was at the Atlanta Radio Club inside of the Red Cross building using this mag loop, and I was able to contact this station and a SJS using 5 watts, 478 miles away. We can see if we can do better. I've got some time. Everyone good with a live demo?
Yeah. Always.
I don't know.
No.
What if it fails? You might be unhappy.
If it fails, it fails. That's great.
Free to go home.
Oh,
You learn from failure.
he said I could go home. I want him to see it fail if it doesn't.
Let's go with,
You're always funny.
You know I love you, Gary.
I hate to see the people you hate. Somebody had to descend.
No, that's not it. You have VGA?
I do get a VGA cake.
No.
See?
I got it.
Yeah.
It's not 18. That's weird. Hold on. I got another computer.
Never do live demos.
Just ask Bill Gates what happens when you do like that.
Yeah, or Steve Jobs. Ta-da!
Well, Gates is famous for doing like XP and a blue screened on him at, you know, the big Windows conference.
Yeah.
With like Windows Developer World or whatever.
Jobs had that happen too.
He got a Windows blue screen of death on an Apple.
That was really embarrassing too.
That's
It
impressive.
was really embarrassing. There were these 5 Windows guys in the back typing furiously to make it happen. Ooh, something happened.
More blue screen.
I can hear it. Jason.
You could.
Yeah.
It's in there faintly.
It's a little noisy in here. So what I have a KX2 up here, and it's hooked up to the mag loop. The mag loop is a chameleon mag loop. And there we go, same image. Thank you. Oh my goodness!
Wow.
Turn the projector.
What is that? Alright, hold on. There's a rotate.
Turn the PC.
Normal. Does that work?
It's an undiagnosed feature. Excuse me, an undocumented feature.
Hey! Alright! Yes, okay, that's fine. Alright, so this is JSA call. Let's see if we can make it a little smaller.
Oh, good God.
So,
Grab the mic if you can.
oh, yes, sir.
Sir?
Alright, so this is JSA call. We're receiving signals. These are happening right now, live QSOs. Right now we have, let's see if I can zoom in. Can we zoom in? Maybe not. So that's W0HU calling KJ7AGB. Yes, I am at 7T, 7th North and I-215. Okay. And then someone's doing pistol drills. What is this? Range yesterday, it's about 10 minutes from the house. Spent several hours with friends. Did many pistol drills. Fun. Mexican food after. This is fantastic. I want to go to the party with this guy. So, what you can see, we're using Vox right now. So, if you're connected to your cat control, your frequency that you're on will be showing here. Here at the top left, you can see the cursor moving. On the right-hand side, we have the spot, auto, log if you want to log the contact. In the bottom, right above the waterfall, are some really short command buttons. So calling CQ, sending your QTH, or any kind of saved message that you have. I had this set up for when a field day with this computer, so I've got my exchange saved there. So what we should do is call CQ. Let's see if someone comes out. Actually, we're going to send a heartbeat first. So the thing about the network that we have with JS8 is that it's built on this concept of heartbeating. So your station sending a signal saying, hey, I'm alive. Hey, I'm alive. My grid is Echo Mike 73, hey, I'm alive. And you can set an interval to do that every 5 minutes, every 15 minutes, every hour. What it does, it allows you to announce yourself so other stations can make contact with you. And that's how we have the information that's populated on the right-hand side. Everything in the program is aggregating all this information that it's receiving on RF. So when I'm announcing myself, hey, this is my grid, it's going to display in someone else who has received it where my grid is, how far away it is, and the direction to them. So let's try this again, because I wasn't on Vox over here. Try another heartbeat. We'll see if we can be heard at all, which we might not be able to, but I've had good luck with this maglev. All right, we're transmitting 10 watts, a 1.2 SWR to the loop. And when you announce a heartbeat, all the other stations that can hear you, if they have heartbeating enabled as well, they'll respond. They'll say, hey, I heard you at negative 15 dB signal to noise ratio. It doesn't look like someone can hear us, at least from what I can see. That's some cool dots. All right, well, we'll try one more time.
We have some time.
All right. Yeah. Okay, that brought it down just a little bit. All right, we'll try another heartbeat just to see if we're being heard at all.
Try the old trick and move the antenna. I know that's really old
All
school.
right, so that's going. So one of the cool things about the network is that the stations will automatically reply. So if you send them a message saying, hey, what's my signal report, they'll send it back. And then you can strike up a conversation and actually exchange the information that you want and actually communicate. So one of those things, so if I wanted to send a message to W0HU, I click on them, I could right click, I could go, I want to send, what is your grid? To him or her. And so it's going to automatically send that, say, hey, what's your grid? And if that station can hear us, they'll respond. This is my grid. What's happening at the bottom, you can see a little ticker that's going by. And if you've used FT8 before, or WSJTX before, that's kind of familiar. That's showing the transmit cycle of the actual frames going out. So it doesn't look, based on the waterfall, that we're going to get a response. So we'll do one more cool thing, and I can say, I'll call.
It's got 21 minutes.
And I can say, have we heard, this query call, and all this is available in the menu. Have we heard our station, KN4CRD? So what we're doing is sending a message out to everyone, all call. That is everyone who can hear me, saying, I'm querying for the call sign KN4CRD. Can you hear them? And if someone can hear our station, they should reply with yes and the signal report. If it cooperates. So we'll
Hey, Jordan.
yeah, go ahead.
What if one of the people that can hear you is also in a conversation with somebody else? Can they still reply?
They can still reply. It depends on whether or not they have auto-enabled. So if they have auto-enabled, that would automatically reply. So if you're in a QSO, you would turn off auto. In The current version does do that automatically, and in the general release, which is coming out in a couple of days, the release candidate, it automatically does that. Turns off auto, turns off your heart beating. Hey look,
like you got a
someone
mic.
can hear us. Great. Thank goodness it worked. So, right now, KD8UJG heard us here with this station, that our call saying, hey, did we hear KN4CRD? And so KD8UJG replied, yep, I acknowledge that, and KN4CRD is at -12 dB. So that's a pretty good signal. So if I wanted to, I could strike up a conversation with this guy, because I know that he can hear us. But another cool thing is I can query KD8UJG directly. It's hard to do this backwards. Who are you hearing? And if they can hear us, still, abandoned shift, they'll respond with the stations that they can currently hear, at least the top 4, ranked by last heard. And so what that would allow me to do is use the network to my advantage and be able to relay messages through KD8UJG to any of the stations that KD8UJG could hear. Another cool thing that's built in is storing of a message on another station. And maybe so I wanted to contact King Hussein, JY1. But I couldn't do that directly. But I knew that HB9AVK in Europe could. I could send a message to King Hussein, store it on the European station, so then when King Hussein came back online, announced his heartbeat, it would automatically send back the message that he was going to be receiving. And it wouldn't be from me, it'd be from the station in Europe. Which is pretty cool. So KD8UJG can hear KM4ALP, KD7ZD, W0HU, and HB9AV. So each of those stations are opportunities for me to actually make contact through KD8UJG. So I could say, here, directed to you, I want to relay via. And so I could say to W0HU, hello from FARL. So what this is going to do is send a message to W0HU through KD8UJG. Hello from NFARL. And if they receive it, they'll actually send a reply through the other station. So we'll see if this happens. You can see we also picked up VE7EAB, which would be the northwest, 2,200 miles away at 309 degrees. This is at -17 dB signal.
It's not bad given the weather.
Not bad for the Maglev. Any questions while we're doing this? It's currently transmitting. Maybe we'll get a response.
I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
WSJTX has a concept of odd and even time slots.
Yeah.
But it looks like you don't use odd and even time slots.
Correct, that's right. So the odd and even time slots in WSJTX are so you can sequence back and forth your exchange, because the exchange is 15 seconds long. That's it. And so the software, WSJTX, takes that, it goes back and forth, and as you progress through your QSO, it automatically switches to the next phase of the actual transmission. So with JSA, what it does is it has no concept of odd and even. You just have to be on time within 2 seconds of a 15-second interval. So you could be 2 seconds off or 17 seconds off from UTC, you'd be fine. And it transmits back to back. So the odd and even time slots aren't needed. What it does require is that the operator now has to pay attention to who's transmitting, who should be transmitting, and you just take turns. It's back to the good old days of passing the mic. So one of the neat things is during a transmission, at the end of the transmission, it's signified with a little squiggle. Let's see if you can see it right here, a little squiggle. It's called an electric arrow. It's a end of transmission symbol. So you can see when KD8UJG responded, he ended it with the little squiggle, the little electric arrow, and saying, hey, I'm done transmitting. So I would know at that point that I could begin transmitting and he'd be able to receive it. He's no longer transmitting. If the band dropped out midway and you didn't actually receive the squiggle, that'd be up to you. So there's a little bit of human element built back into the software.
And the squiggle's automatic by the software.
Yeah, you don't have to actually send that. It sends it automatically based on what you type in.
Jordan, what are you using for time?
So this right here is an unsynchronized laptop. So I haven't synchronized this to internet time at all. What I did it to my wristwatch once. What's important about that and why he's asking about time is that you have to be within that 2-second window, 2.5 seconds on time, basically. What's neat is that inside of the software, there's actually time drift controls built in. So if I was receiving a station, I could see it on the waterfall, and I knew that my time was off, say the beginning of the transmission didn't line up with this green line that's going across the screen, I could synchronize inside the app by clicking the button, sync time drift to now. It allows you to basically manually drift at 100 millisecond increments, or you could type it in if you wanted, the actual time sync. So what I'll do is I keep this is within 1 second, it's a little Casio, it's within 1 second accuracy per year drift. So I synchronize it, and I go in here and I can say, okay, it's 15-second interval, click. And my app is already synchronized immediately. With the synchronization of the time allows me to not have to spend CPU cycles actually decoding useless information. I know that the signal is going to start at this point, and it can be more efficient. It doesn't look like W0HU actually replied. So if they had eventually received this relay, they would relay back. I've acknowledged your message. And so it makes it a little more reliable. So I know that they haven't received it, or at least I can assume that. So I could resend it again if I needed to, if maybe it was a really important message. Any other questions?
Yeah.
So you've been raising your hand a lot.
When you log your contacts, does the JS8 call software have the native ability to interact with other logging applications so you can automatically log your favorite logging software, or do you just export an ADIF file when you're done and import it into your log?
Yeah, so you can do both. So it's hard to drag with this. Hold on. Two fingers. There you go. So this is a log window. You might have seen this in WSJTX. When you log, it's saved to an ADIF file, which you can import into any logging program. You can upload it to LOTW if you want it. But built into the software, there are two mechanisms. There's an API that allows other programmers to build against the software. And that is reported here. You can also log directly to N1MM compatible software. And if you use N3FJP software, there's a bridge program that translates that N1MM over to other native formats.
Got it.
So you can do it all automatically if you really wanted to. If you're a programmer and wanted to use the software or receive messages based on your format, you could. There's an API that allows you to extend the program to do whatever you like. The software is free software, free as in beer, free as in speech. Any questions? Yeah, Dale.
So what's your 5-year or long-term plan for JSA?
Well, if it's still around in 5 years, I don't know. Sunspots might return, right? We don't need weak signal. We hop on 10-meter voice. If it lasts that long, I have some thoughts around the concept of disconnected networking or disrupted networking. It's terminology around deep space communication or an interstellar internet. Basically, a lot of passing information automatically to seamlessly route messages to a disconnected station that comes online once every while, which is kind of like our ham radio stations at this solar low. So they're not always online. So I like to be able to turn on JSA, say, hey, anybody have any messages? And I receive those messages. Oh wait, you can do that today, which is pretty cool. So in 5 years, I hope that better. And give us an opportunity to continue evolving kind of digital modes in ham radio. Be cool when we have better sunspots in 5 years, maybe we have better sunspots. We could up the bandwidth and transmit a lot faster than 15-second frames.
Did you preserve the forward error correction?
Yes, so the forward error correction is still, it's all based on the FT8 code. This was forked from WSJTX around version 110. It's right before they split to the 77-bit stuff. The forward error correction works really nice. There's a slight modification to the synchronization code to make it so it doesn't bother FT8. And then my thing that I feel like is my invention is the compression algorithms and the network protocol layer on top of it.
So your disconnected networking sounds a lot like some of the store and forward satellites. Is it the same idea?
Exactly. So there's store and forward built in, and we know that KDA UJG can hear us. Maybe we can send a message. So I can direct to him. I can send a message to, and so this is actually an older version. So what I would do is this to. I put the call sign here of who I was sending this to. So if I wanted, JY1, I think about my message. So that would store a message in KD8 UJG's hard drive. And the next time JY1 came online and heartbeated, KD8 UJG would say, hey, I have a message for you. Here's message ID number 27. And JY1 could then fetch it. There's the automatic announcement that there's a message available is like the forward part of store forward. With disconnected network, it's taking that a step further, forwarding the entire message closer to the recipient. So if I was sending a message to a European station, I want to store it in a European station that could potentially be heard by the station I would like the recipient, the message to be received. Yeah.
Is there an acknowledgement when those messages are forwarded that they're actually received?
Yeah, absolutely. So it looks just like this. This little ACK, -12. So that's saying, hey, I acknowledge that, and it's a -12. When you actually forward, so KD8 UJG or W0HU, when they receive that message, they send an acknowledgement back using the same relay path. So that's allows it so. Based on like, if you can hear a station, you usually can, it usually goes both ways. So the relay path back likely could be used to relay the message back. No contest mode, not looking for it, because you can set anything. There are some built-in niceties, so like calling CQ, I can say CQ contest, and it transmits in a frame. I use this for Winterfield Day, and all my messages are macros here. Nothing really. I'd say if you were going to use it for contesting, probably be better using FT8 because you're not going to sit down and rag shoot for a while using JSA.
I'm just really curious, Jordan, did Frank and Joe say they support you or what?
So, kind of. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting story because it started with my first idea I sent to the list. I said, hey, we should build this. We should use one of those bits in the 75-bit payload to indicate that there's more messages coming. And they're like, kind of, that's cool, but not really. So I'm like, okay, I'll download the code. I'll just add it. Let's try it out. And I added it to WSJTX. And if you go on my website, jsa8call.com, I think there's a link to it. And if not, there's definitely a link inside of the reflector to that original prototype. So when I went back to Steve and Joe about the idea, I wanted to develop it further. This was like last year, February of last year. They said, it's not really WSJTX's thing, so proceed as you wish. I took that as, yes, you can do it, go for it, and use FT8's name, whatever you like. So the original software was called FT8 Call, as an homage to FT8. Eventually they didn't like that. It was getting a lot of press at the time. It got leaked. There was a big thing right up in Curiosity.com. It had like a thread of like 1,000 comments. And I got some really nasty emails from a lot of different people suggesting that I should change the name. And so I put it out to the mailing list. The mailing list is my beta testers. And a lot of people threw some ideas out there. Oh, you should call it Bacon. Oh, you should call it Charlotte. You know, you have Charlotte. Olivia is the same thing. So JS8 is really where we landed. Basically back to the connection to FT8, really easy to remember. And then call is actually, FSQ call is a similar type of system built on FSQ back in 2015. So that was the inspiration, and we went from there. So no, Joe Taylor has not said, this is awesome, you should do it, but he did say, proceed as you wish. And I've got a copy of the email if it ever gets deleted, so yeah.
What are the other frequencies in use besides 7078?
Yeah, sure. So, listed here. So they within, you can barely see it actually. They're within 4 kilohertz of FT8, between 4 and 8 kilohertz of FT8. So you could run both programs simultaneously with a good receiver, wide passband.
Did you pick those?
I did pick those, and it was very difficult because every frequency I picked, someone complained about it. So this is the best I could do. 7078 is the 40 meter, 20 meters 14078, and up to 6 meters 5318, down to 160 1842. You can add any frequency you like. The program doesn't complain. You start it up and transmitting on 11 meters. It will transmit on 11 meters in Europe. It's not going to prevent you from doing that. And there were a bunch of CBers, preventers on JS8, which is
Seriously?
yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, did that answer your question? Any other questions? Looks like we're still receiving. Pretty cool. Anybody? Oh, look at this. F4 HQL, 4,400, 73 miles away, France. That's pretty cool. At negative 10 dB, they must be really pumping it out. Oh yeah, actually, I don't have internet. I don't know. Let's see.
It'd be really cool if I could see that.
Oh man, Wi-Fi.
Oh no!
It's okay, Gary.
Yeah.
It's all right. Deep breaths. Deep breaths, Dr. Bush.
What I want to show really quick. Don't have much time left. PSK reporter.
Oh, only officials will get in trouble.
Maybe. All right, looks like no network.
This is open network logging page.
Your Wi-Fi here.
Oh, there it is. Yes. That Eula is okay, right?
Yeah. You just gave away your house.
All right. Come on. Okay, and oversee enter. All right. So this is PSK reporter. Zoom out here. So these are the stations that heard us tonight. KD8UJG, which looks like is in Ohio, maybe Pennsylvania.
Ohio.
Ohio. Oh yeah, and then Columbia County, Ohio, KBA-HTU, and what is this? Maryland? Virginia? Where is it? DC. Okay, KB3GTN. At -11, that's pretty good. So those are all distances, 400 or 500 miles. I don't know what the longest is.
France.
Yeah, Brand, definitely.
4,400 miles.
That's who we heard. Oh, look at this. W0, whatever his name is. Oh my gosh. 1,500 miles did hear us. So that's pretty cool. That's pskreporter.com. APRS.fi. If you send your grid on JS8, it'll post it there, which is pretty cool. You can also forward APRS packets through JS8, which is kind of fun.
First of all, very impressive. And I was just curious if you could share what you feel was your most challenging aspect or bit of problem solving that you had to overcome.
So the most challenging aspect of JS8 problem solving. I probably have to say, like, iterating on the network payload, like the packet. FTA is built on 75 bits of information. It's not a lot of information. It's like one really large number and a really, really small number. That was probably the most difficult. I had, there's a document that I have out there which talks about the design inspiration. I had some ideas floating around. Doing that over and over throughout the beta testing process, there were sometimes I had to like break it. Say, hey guys, it's not going to work from this version to this version because I'm changing the payload to make it easier to use or more compressible. So that was the most difficult. All right, I think we're out of time. Thanks for listening. Feel free to email me, KN4CRD@gmail.com. That's listed on the JS8 call sheet. And if you are interested in getting started, feel free, I can help you. Thanks.
Oh.